Hello, I'm Liz.
And Collins.
Welcome to Liz&Peps Productions, and we are very happy that you could join us for today's session. We are going to talk about areas of faith, relationship, and anything interesting in between. So you have definitely seen the description of what we are going to tackle in particular from the description topic, and come along. We are going to have a very interesting conversation today, and we shall be delving into culture. Are you excited about it?
Very. Sounds
Why?
so exciting. Cause,
Anything in particular?
Because actually, culture is what defines humanity in most cases. And one of the biggest mysteries in the human existence is actually culture and how God created people to be different. Yet at the end of the day, we come together and we live and do things together. It's just really fascinating, and I love that.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes. So we shall be talking about culture, and we grew. Well, they say that there is beauty in diversity.
Absolutely.
I believe that there is beauty in diversity for sure.
I have seen it.
Yeah. Okay. And so talking of diversity, we came from different backgrounds, I'd say. So for me, I was more of a city girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Why are you acting shocked?
City girl.
Yes, I have been a city girl.
Because I almost said town and then I remembered. Town girl. City.
What's the
To be
difference?
precise. A city is a city. Standard.
Aha! Yes, thank you. Thank you for the elevation.
Yeah.
Yes, so I've always been a city girl. I have grown up in Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, all my life. Yeah. And so to be honest, I did not really have much insight about what we would normally say is life in the village. This will sound very weird, to be honest, if you're definitely looking at this video, but I didn't know of the farming, of the traditional stuff, because then again, for our family, we hardly went down to the village.
To the village, yeah.
Yeah, so it was all about the city, and everything revolved around the city, including where we all studied. Yeah, okay, other than my elder sister and my elder brother who studied outside the city. So I went to a very nice school as well, in the city again.
In the city.
And I think that formed a little bit of differences on how we perceived things and saw things, sort of in what light we saw different things.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us where you grew up and how that was like?
Yeah, definitely. As you've heard, I am actually exactly the opposite of what she said. Well, she's the kind, as she sounds, you've heard her, the kind that would just hear about some of these things as folktales and fairy tales and imaginative stories. I am one person who had a real taste of life in the countryside, in the village. Growing up, I happened to be a blend of both. So I had a taste of life in the village, and then in town as well. Grew up in town for the midsection of my life before I moved over now to the city. So I'm one person who has had a blend of the full life. I've seen most of those things that she wouldn't have an opportunity to see in the city. Some of those things she would just see on news, on TV, and hear about some of these things. But yeah, it's very interesting, and we've chosen to talk about this topic today because as I said, culture is what defines people, and people are going to meet in diverse platforms in various places, and these are people who have had a history. Most people meet probably in their grown-up ages, for instance, and you have no idea how the other person has grown, isn't it? So
Yeah.
they're probably a product of a different culture, different upbringing, and where you meet on a serious platform like ours now, where we're getting into marriage, culture does play a big part in.
Yeah, of course.
So because this is an inevitable thing that we are going to encounter in life, not just for us but for many other people who are watching this video, the young people who are growing up, and probably those who have already gotten married, for instance, and there's still some things you are struggling to iron out. This topic is definitely for you, so we want to see how we can live around this, and all that, and just be able to crack this culture diversity in our existence.
And given that we are married, there is this notion normally that in Africa, parents would normally push their children to get married to people who come from the same culture, the same tribe, sort of. I wonder whether that was the same case with you, and what was the sort of reaction from your parents and siblings and other extended family members when you told them, okay, now I'm getting married, but then here's the rider. I am marrying someone who comes from outside of our culture. How was that like?
Yeah, to be specific about where I grew up, you see, it is something that did exist. It's something that actually does exist up to now. There are just that fuss around people getting married to people from a different tribe and all that. Although there are those tribes that seem, in Kenya, we happen to have so many tribes. Actually, from my studies back then, I may not be able to mention all of them, but we were told we have 42 different sub-tribes in Kenya. And I can only mention the major ones, which would not be less than 20 actually. And that is already a big number. We have those tribes that are close to each other, neighbors in upbringing, and so they are more friendly and welcoming to one another. We have others that have a long history of, they do not just get along so well. So these things have been built into the society, and they affect how we grow up, how we grew up, how we grow up, and how we perceive things, especially such as marriage. And this was the same, I believe, to my to my family as well. People would readily want to believe you're going to marry somebody from your tribe and all that. And having mentioned earlier that I moved from the village to the city, you see, it brings up a different dimension, because I am now going to a place that is more metropolitan. Growing up in my countryside where I was born means I'm interacting primarily with people basically from my tribe and all that. And if I just grew up there would be chances that I'm going to marry somebody from my tribe. Moving now to the city and to the university, where now a city is an environment that carries people from all over the country, from all tribes, and now I am getting to interact with people from this tribe, from other tribes, and probably make friendships with people from other tribes, including those that my people perceive as not really accepting them. You know what I mean?
And was that sort of a marker when you are looking out for someone who you could probably date or marry during that time? Were you sort of, in this your checklist, was tribe one of the things that you were supposed to check, or was it a coincidence, so to say?
To be honest, I think I would confidently say I'm one of the people who got delivered from the tribal barrier quite early in time. And I don't know, somehow I just perceive myself marrying somebody not from my tribe. Interestingly enough. Everything that was happening in my life pointed towards me not, and I was really okay and at peace with it. So the only consideration here would be, and my concern would be, how my people are going to respond, how they would they readily welcome this. So I actually knew and was okay. So this was not a consideration. Growing up in a metropolitan society means my mind was more opened up now in terms of thinking. They say you travel and get to the world to challenge you to open up your thinking, because growing up in one area you tend to be just so confined because you do not know so much about and as it is now, there are people who speak against other tribes and they do not have the facts or haven't had a chance to interact with them or just get exposed to an environment that would enable them think better. Or so personally, one of the checklists wasn't the tribe as such. I was one very open person.
I think that was
I knew one thing I used to tell myself is I hopefully God will have me crack getting my family and my people to agree with this. So
I think for me that was also not among the stuff on my checklist, because my elder siblings, my sister and my brother, they've also married outside our tribe. And so in a way I was convinced, or I knew that it wouldn't really sort of be a push and pull if I brought home someone who was outside my tribe. So that was really not a major thing when I was really looking out for someone. And I also wonder, for the time that we've been married, do you think that there are some things from my tribe that people perceived that you found to be true, either true or false? I tell you what, I have one.
You do have about me?
Yes, about you.
I want to hear that.
So the perception normally is that, so my husband is lawyer, so of the tribes in Kenya, my husband is a lawyer.
I am lawyer.
Yeah. And people normally have a perception that lawyers can eat. It is a calling.
They eat.
It is a calling. Yes.
Serious business.
It is serious business. You only stop eating when you are resting and going back to eat. Funny thing is, you actually do not eat.
That's interesting about me.
Yeah, you do not. You are such a poor eater. And the problem was,
I'm assuming the legacy of my tribe.
Definitely. Yeah. And the funny thing is, because I am also a poor eater, I remember this joke that some of my relatives are telling me, now that you are getting married to a lawyer, you will by default become, you'll by default add weight, because you will now be forced to eat a lot as well. I'm sorry, that may not be happening anytime soon, but we will try.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the perceptions that I think I definitely debunk. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and we are known for the infamous maize meal, ugali.
Yes.
And everybody thinks lawyers love ugali.
Yeah.
And when I was in at the university, it's one thing I never liked at all. So people often would ask me, "Are you sure? Are you sure you are lawyer?"
Yeah.
Every lawyer has to eat ugali every
whole
day.
meal.
Whole meal every day. Like if they haven't eaten ugali,
you're sleeping hungry.
You're hungry. Yeah. If you haven't eaten ugali, you have not eaten that day.
Yeah.
So that would make it easy, because our prayer and fasting would just involve not eating ugali. So I can eat rice a lot. Anyway, so I don't know. This is just how God created me. But I in my home, I can assure you, people, we eat. People
eat. Okay.
I don't know what happened to me, but I have good testimony from my side. People do eat. They haven't ashamed that calling as I have done.
Okay.
Yeah. So about you, now this being a Luo, we happen to be neighbors anyway. So by the one thing about we Luyas and Luos is because I think maybe because we were neighbors, there wasn't so much intermarriage was a bit common between these two tribes, and like other tribes that were a bit far away. So there wasn't so much resistance when it comes to, or there wouldn't normally be, even to those who are radicals and all that, they would readily welcome intermarriage between Luyas and Luos. But one stereotype, should I call it? No, it is not a stereotype. It should actually be true. It doesn't matter. I feel like I know.
I feel like I know what you want to say.
Luos come from the lakeside. That is the greater Lake Victoria. So having grown up in the lake city of Kisumu, Luos are believed to be fishermen, and they are believed to love fish.
Yes.
And
sardines.
the definition of a Luo is fish. So when you see any Luo, you believe they love fish. Hey, and I knew that until I met her. Here is one Luo who doesn't eat fish.
I do not love fish. I do not love sardines. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I grew up knowing. And then I happen to love fish, by the way. So I knew here is my salvation. And then the
I'm
shocking
sorry.
reality,
Yeah.
here we are. She doesn't love fish, by the way.
The funny thing is, actually, I completely never used to eat fish up until around after when I was in campus or thereabout.
Oh.
And then that is when I started eating fish and a little bit of sardines, though I still do not really love that. That would not be my go-to food at any point.
Oh,
yeah. And I do not know why, but
I don't know, but I would think growing up in the city would have something to do with it. Though,
but maybe because again, what used to turn me off about fish in particular is the bones.
okay.
And then I find it very strenuous having to remove the bones, and then at the same time I'm hungry. It's just too much work. And then filet never tastes like this fish with bones as well.
Oh yeah,
it tastes different. So I'm just not a lover of fish anyway.
Okay.
yeah. And I wonder what you feel, or what do you think would be helpful for someone who is getting into a cross-cultural marriage or relationship in terms of adopting this other person's culture and taking it up. What do you think would be good? What sort of a good trait, or what would be helpful?
One thing I would say outrightly is being a Christian, and we as Christians, we understand the fact that irrespective of our differences, more so in terms of tribe and culture and all that, we understand that God created us as one and equal.
Yes.
And we are all created in the image of God, and it's God's will for us to love one another irrespective. It is love first that draws us to one another. Before you look at anything else about somebody, just know that God has called you to love. As long as they are a human being with soul, body, and spirit, walking and just like you, then God has called you first of all to love them, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you talk about somebody who has now gone ahead and maybe married from across culture, and this is not just about marriage, I would want this to extend even to any other kind of interactions, be it workplace relationships and all that. Once God brings a person of a different tribe into you, and now especially now when it comes to marriage, we have to have that readiness with the understanding that God has called us to love. We must first of all embrace each other as equal before God, and as people called to love one another, and as equally important. So that other person is equally as important as you are. Secondly, God calls us to coexist together in peace. Okay, so that means you have to accept somebody the way they are. The differences that are between us are meant to complement one another and not to tear us apart. So your attitude should be, what is it that this person brings to the table by virtue of their difference in terms of culture, tribe. So you are looking at capitalizing on their strength, because God brings somebody into your life for a reason, and they want you to benefit and make the most out of that relationship. So your attitude at first should be, what am I going to gain from this person, or what can I embrace from this person that will make me better? Secondly, the fact that living together in peace is not an option, it is mandatory. It is something that has to happen. So you have to know that I will do whatever it takes to ensure that I live together in peace. And that would include knowing what this person believes in, what their culture is, and trying now to get along with that person.
Isn't it beautiful how Christ sort of crafts this all out together? And okay, I got permission from my friend, but I have a friend who's married to, he is West African, and he's married to a white person. And so the white lady was actually saying how it's just more or less what you've actually mentioned, how it's picking out the positive thing from this other person as well. So the British lady was actually saying what she has really learned from this West African brother is being homely.
Okay.
Because Africans are please do not misquote me, but Africans most of the times are known to be very homely, and what she picked from their family, from this other family, was that they were really very homely, and as opposed to how they grew up.
British,
yes,
actually. So,
yes, and so it's also picking out what, just as you've said, really, it's picking out those positive things that you could actually pick from this other person, and running with it, just to make every day and the relationship and marriage as a whole better for both parties. But other than that, I think humility is very key.
Very.
In such instances, because it really takes a lot of grace to be able to pick out the positive things from this other person or from this other culture. As much as we want to say that, of course, you will see something from this other culture and learn and probably pick it up. It takes lots of grace and humility. So it's seeking God to actually put that in you, so that you can be able to bring it forth. Yeah.
So as the scriptures say, it's the love of God that makes a difference in us. As you mentioned, it may be difficult at first because the Bible is clear about the position of the heart of man. The Bible says it's wicked. Okay. So that means our very nature, without Christ, we are wicked, selfish, and all those manner of things that you'd want to talk about, that would want to repel somebody, and just think about me, and the I, me, and myself,
me, myself, and I,
trait, of course. But now that we are Christians, we know that Christ's love makes a difference in us and teaches us to know that it is beyond just us. As selfish, as selfless as Christ was, to the extent of just dying for the entire humanity, is the foundation of how we as human beings, we need to relate as well. So it is the love of Christ that will help us be able to see beyond the weakness of the other people, and be ready to sacrifice even what we can, just to make sure that we coexist and accommodate other people as well in love.
Yeah, definitely. And in a nutshell, cross-cultural marriage, cross-cultural relationships are very beautiful. Kindly interact with us on the comment section, like, share, and subscribe as well to this channel. Thank you. Until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.